According to the schema of the First Vatican Council, the spirit of rationalism proceeds from a more radical impulse towards perversity. Indeed, Catholic theologians have always discussed the principle of the absolute autonomy of created reason when discussing a graver spiritual sin, namely that of the demons. Rationalism either rejects the supernatural mysteries, as well as our elevation to the supernatural order, or wishes to know that the supernatural history, or wishes to know the supernatural mysteries by the natural power of reason. Hence, it is not surprising if, in looking upon the rationalistic principle of the autonomy of nature and of human reason, the Church sees nothing other than spiritual rebellion, whose motto is "I will not serve." So this is what I was saying about the sort of formal principle of the sin of the demons, is that really rationalism is naturalism in general is the sort of sin of the demons brought out to bear in saying, okay, I will not serve. I will follow um, the sort of beatitude that I want. I'm going to. I actually interesting connection. So my wife was telling me about this. This would be an interesting video to review to kind of see all of this stuff play out. But you know where they have those videos? I can't remember who does them. Where you like have random people from the street come on, and they all sit in a room and they all discuss something, and it's supposed to be like,
Oh yeah,
yeah, one of
yeah.
they're always horrible.
They're horrible,
They're
terrible.
always horrible. So they had this one where they brought in a bunch of people into the room, and they asked the people, "Do you think Satan was the bad guy?" It's fascinating. They said, "Okay, stand up if you think he's the bad guy. No, stand up if you think he's the good guy. Sit down if you think he's the bad guy, or at least not the good guy." And everybody but one decided that they wanted to uh, stand up and say that he was actually the good guy.
What?
So yeah, it's crazy. All of these like women and homosexuals and all those people. So they were all questioned, is like, why the heck do you think like, Satan's the good guy? Like what's going on here? And it was fascinating what their answers were. Their answers were basically this. Their answers were, well, why wouldn't we think Satan's the good guy? The Satan wanted people to be like freed um from the rule of God. They wanted them to be free. They wanted them to have autonomy from God. I mean, they weren't using these exact terms. They were saying basically free, but what they meant by that is that Satan was good because Satan brought about autonomy for man. What is this? This is basically just naturalism.
Yeah.
And these people
Judging
were,
higher things through lower things, as if the
yeah,
lower things are the
yeah,
highest goods and the highest goods are the greatest evils.
yeah. And what was really interesting is they were just being consistent. Because
Yeah.
the other guy in the room kind of was just like, well, um, like I know from like my upbringing that like autonomy and freedom and liberation and all of this stuff, that's actually a good thing. So like rights and crap like that, that's good things. So like what am I supposed to do? And the thing is, he had a right intuition. He just had all of the wrong principles from his upbringing to be able to judge this question and to be able to intelligently argue for the conclusion. And what people need to do is people just need to say, like, actually, no, autonomy is not an absolute good. Freedom is not an absolute good. Rights don't exist absolutely. None of these things are like actually just they're not just like things floating out of there like independently of God.
Mhm.
Uh, this is not how it works. So actually, it's like really fascinating by understanding like these philosophical trends. It would have been really interesting if like I don't know somebody like Garrigou who's written about naturalism and understands like the sort of inner workings of how this connects with like the sin of the demons. If somebody would have went in there and had this discussion to explain through to people like actually like this is why this is a terrible thing,
Mhm.
and you've just been like kind of brainwashed by this naturalistic spirit in order to think like this. And this is something that it's it's really interesting because both conservatives and liberals They kind of play this gotcha. Have you noticed this? Play this gotcha game, like the Democrats, the true racists type deal. You ever
Yeah,
notice
yeah.
it? Yeah, or like actually like Republicans are the like true like feminists or like this is just stupid. I actually think that's the dumb crap that what's the woman running for president? What's her name?
Nikki Haley.
Yeah, some dumb crap that like Nikki Haley would say. You see that really what this actually exposes is that all of these people have the same exact principles. They all have the
Mhm.
same exact principles. And it ends up with the glorification of Satan and the sin of the demons. That's where it ends up. All these people have the same principles. They don't recognize they haven't been properly formed due to the almost complete absence of the genuine Catholic faith being taught in these circles. They just don't recognize that the importance of these things. So because they don't recognize the importance of these things, because they're not like they don't alter their principles to beatitude as their end, because of this, because they have their end in earthly felicity, this is the root of so many things.
Mhm.
This is why people will kind of like hedge their bets and spend most of their time um, like doing all of these sinful acts. I mean, it's like, well, kind of like maybe the supernatural end exists, but I don't really like know that much. I'm not really sure about it. So I kind of just do what I want. This is why because people have just like the natural ends in sight. They don't have the supernatural beatitude in sight. They don't direct all things to that end because they have all of these corrupted principles. They're working it out consistently. That's all they're doing. They're working it out consistently, and they just have like kind of a few different flavors that the way in which they're working it out, depending on things like conditions and um, social influences and whatever. They're just working out the same perversion to different perverse ends. That's all it is. It's just different flavors of sort of perverse principles being worked out. So I actually think that's what all of this is revealing to us about when we're thinking about the various ways that modernity has been corrupted into, and why you can have um, think for example, Joe Biden. Not even thinking about the Republican Party, which it's like we see this collapse as well. But like Joe Biden, while he was president, vice president, while he was vice president, saying that like gay marriage wasn't a thing. That's crazy. That was what, like 10 years ago that he was saying this? Maybe a little bit longer ago that he said this. A little bit longer than 10 years ago, but anyways, it's like the Republicans are doing the same thing. I mean, most of the party is probably like for gay marriage. You have transgenders for Trump. Why do we get such radical shifts in opinion over such like a brief period of time? I mean, it's because by their principles, like sure, you can just make that radical shift. Really, it's just the force of a gutless tradition that's being kept. I mean, according to their principles, I mean, why shouldn't we have transgenders for Trump? Um why shouldn't we have all these things? It's in accordance with like all of their principles. But yeah, the second point I went a little off track, but this idea of naturalism having a more radical impulse towards perversity. What it's trying to do is it's trying to completely invert God under all things, under all things.